Welcome to the Spike Camp podcast. Spike Camp is a free online community for hunters that support conservation. It's a great place to share stories and your experience with other hunters. As a member of Spike Camp, you get access to all of our hunting live streams, discussion channels, contests, hunter resources, and events that we host. Membership to Spike Camp is free. Our only ask is that you are a member of a hunting or conservation group before you register. Head over to spikecamp.com to join us. This episode of the Spike Camp podcast is brought to you in part by PackAlarm. PackAlarm is an ultralight bear alarm designed for the backcountry. PackAlarm creates a perimeter around your camp that alerts you to incoming predators or bears with an audio alarm. Weighing just half a pound, the PackAlarm Pro is over 7 times lighter than other bear fences, and it fits in the palm of your hand, making it easy to stow in your pack. You can string out a perimeter as big as a basketball court with approximately 300 feet of line in a single PackAlarm. Visit PackAlarm.com to learn more and order one for your next trip into bear country.
Welcome to night 2 of the Bear Camp series. Bear Camp sponsored by PackAlarm, and we also have some bear spray that has been donated from our buddy Scott over at Defense Aerosols. So last night we had Wasey and Taylor on from Alberta talking about bear hunting over bait. Tonight we've got 2 BC residents on the show. Both Spike Camp members, and thank you guys. You guys have been supporters for a long time, and we certainly appreciate that. We're going to talk a little bit more about hunting bears in BC and I guess anywhere where spot and stalk hunting bear hunting comes into play. So, Jordan, you can hear me fine. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? You're a BC boy, but let's get your background and how you got into hunting and stuff.
Well, it started out with my dad taking me out when I was 7 years old. He got me at 22. Let me accompany him on his hunts. Wasn't allowed to shoot it if we were moose hunting or walking in the bush or trying to be quiet or anything. So a lot of times it was safe for the trip home. We saw a grouse or anything, but I never got to see any to shoot. So it took quite a while. I only got to hunt with my dad 4 to 6 times a year because he worked shift work. I was in school, so I didn't get out much. It's envious with all the other kids in school that their dads take them out on big long trips and go up north or pull them out of school and that every year. But I wasn't one of those kids, and my dad always had to work and shift work, and that didn't help. It didn't always line up. Weekends would line up once in a while. So I tried to connect as much as possible when I got old enough to kind of start heading out in the bush, but I wasn't allowed to pack a firearm legally or anything. So I'd go shed hunting and have cheap disposable cameras or go ride my horse trail riding all over the place in the local areas around here. Just find connection that way. I guess it was close to as hunting as I could get until I got fortunate enough for my dad to be able to take me out, which that wasn't very often. So I was doing a lot of stuff by myself on my own. In the summertime, I was down at the river a lot, fishing, seeing lots of wildlife and that, and then up in the hills in the wintertime, in the spring, and in the fall. Just if I wasn't hunting, my dad, it would be or not in school, I'd be out hiking or looking for sheds and doing all that kind of stuff, or riding my horse and be out for hours on end, whole days, just out in the wild by myself as a kid. And then even as when I got old enough to be able to carry a firearm legally and have my own like hunting license and not a junior license, be able to, like, it still took a while before I could get out, because even then I had to get reliable wheels to go out in the bush with and that, just to get there. I mean, when I left BC, I just had a car. I went to Alberta, and then I ended up using my sister-in-law's Honda Civic to go hunting out by north of Grand Cache, and I ended up bringing home a mule deer buck in the hatchback of that car with the back legs between the front seat and the passenger seat, and had the windows rolled down and wearing a toque, driving home back to Edmonton, keep it cool. And then later on, I got a truck, and then I go on my big trips up there every year. I started getting into elk hunting, and that's where I really started to learn a lot, is from elk hunting. And I was always hunting by myself. I didn't really know anybody or have anybody to go with. We worked on the oil rigs, and everybody I worked with lived in different towns all over the place or another province away or whatever. So, but elk was, there's something I learned a lot from, and it took me about 10 years to finally connect on my first bull after a lot of mistakes and close encounters and mishaps. And so,
Yeah, it's elk hunting is a challenge, man. I think it's in my opinion, it's I guess I put them in the same sort of caliber as stone sheep, just being at a level of difficulty for different reasons, right? Elk are so smart. Stone sheep are just hard to find and live in rough places. But so were you Kamloops, born and raised in the Kamloops area then, or like you said, you're in BC, but is that where you're from?
I'm raised here in Lower Nicola, and now I live back here since 2012.
Okay.
So in another 13 years back in my home community.
Nice. When did you start bear hunting then? You started off with elk and kind of cut your teeth with that. When did you start getting after bears?
You know, my father never really hunted bears. We'd always see him and say, well, why would you want to shoot a bear, those greasy old things? Or he had taken one or two bears, I know, in his hunting career. He decided not to hunt anymore when his wife, or my stepmother, passed away. He just didn't feel he didn't feel like going out actually hunting again. It just changed him. So he had a sick bear. They were out deer hunting. It was December. The mule deer season used to run way into December here, way back when, probably in the 70s and the early 80s. I'm imagining before I was able to accompany him, and they were up in this place called Pony Creek, up still hunting mule deer timber, late season, and lots of snow on the ground, and this bear come out of its den with no hair on and started running towards my dad, and that was one of the bears my dad had shot. But other than that, it's like, and nobody I knew really hunted them except my uncle, but he, never take me out. He had his own sons. And so I didn't get into bear hunting till 2012 was the first year I ever bought a bear tag.
Okay.
And I was back in BC. I could legally hunt that year, because I was back in BC since 2010. So I ended up getting a fall bear, a nice little cinnamon bear, 5.5 footer. But working on that thing and skinning that thing was just an absolute mess. It left a puddle of grease and a stain in the driveway, for one thing, and it just constantly trying to keep things clean and keep the hair out, and its hair wants to stick to all the fat, and it just put me off fall bear hunting. And then I was still interested in it, and I took up spring bear hunting the following year in 2013, and I killed a giant that year after hunting all spring, and I ended up finally connecting with them the first week of June. And then the next year, so it was a developing thing. It took a while. The following year, I got a nice boar, but it wasn't near the size of that one. But it almost put me off of bear hunting. I was still hunting in the timber off of between a cut block and a power line that were always held bears. Every time you go into this place, you'd see at least a bear or more.
Mhm.
And I ended up finding all this fresh scat and stuff and trails all through the timber. So I started still hunting in the timber. And I don't know anybody that's crazy enough to still hunt bears in the timber. But I got out just into the edge where I could see the power lines through the treetops, and it started to open up. And I see this brown boar that I'd been seeing but could never connect on, and I seen him bedded down, panting away, just kind of gazing into space. And he had a black sow with him, and she kind of walked off to one side. And when he got up, I smoked him right through the chest as he was facing me head on. So I drilled him between the front legs, and that just rolled him right over. It was a lethal shot, but he literally cried for like a good minute, probably.
Mhm.
Or it seemed to take forever. It was probably seconds, but and I had to put another one in him. But that almost just threw me right off right there. That noise, like he was literally bawling. And then it took me a while. I didn't spring bear hunt the following year, and then in the fall, I bought bear takes for the spring, but I didn't feel like getting out. I was just put off. But in the fall, I guess I got all psyched up for it again. Just needed some meat in the freezer, and a buddy of mine was out where he'd been going, seen this huge black bear, and he was telling me about it, telling my dad about it. So my dad told me about it. He was trying to take his kid there to get her first deer. And I go up there and I see this thing, and it's open grassland, and I see this wide space between the ears. And I get all excited. It's by itself, like a pretty good sized bear. And I shot it, and it was a sow. And that was a big learning curve right there. But she was by herself. She had abscessed teeth. She had missing teeth. She had a missing canine. She had half an ear. And she was just a tank. But when I was working on her, I learned a lot about like the different characteristics compared to the boars that I worked with.
Okay. So, like, as far as like body size and like facial size and stuff like that, what kind of characteristics are you thinking there?
Very deceiving, for one thing, especially in the fall when they're fattened up.
Mm-hmm.
Shorter stature,
Mhm.
different face, different snout. Just the proportion, the way the proportion is. A 5.5 foot sow or 5'7" sow can almost like silhouette what you think would be a boar in the fall, but they stand a little bit different, for one thing, and the shoulder girdle in the boar is a lot different.
Okay.
I find.
So you've taken a couple in the fall. Is your preference now spring bears?
Definitely spring. Yeah. The fall is just a lot of work, a lot of fat. You got to take a fillet knife and shave it off.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want it on your meat. It's just too greasy. It's too much. It's too overbearing. There was this young fellow brought me the fat off of his bear because I told him I could use it or make something with it. And he brought in 65 pounds of fat just off one bear.
Jeez.
Our local meat processor, or I don't know how many saw blades he went through trying to cut it for him, cut the fat off. Yeah, and
Yeah,
it's just massive amounts. It's crazy how much fat they can put on, and how much they can keep when they wake up, when they come out of their den. How much some years they still have a lot.
yeah, I can imagine, right? When you think about that process, it's a pretty incredible journey a bear goes through in the winter in hibernation, right? So, a couple questions for you. So, spring bear hunting, how does your bear season start? Like, what's the first thing that you do in the spring as far as getting out after bears? Because you've shot quite a few nice looking bears from from the posts that we've seen, and you seem to have a lot of success there. So maybe give us a little breakdown on what you do as far as spring bear hunting goes.
Well, south-facing slopes for starters. Um, most people would be surprised because I've connected on a lot of bears at around only 600 meters, but I've connected early, like early April, when
Okay.
people aren't even seeing bears yet. They're wondering where the bears are, and there's too much snow up top to go anywhere else. Like you can't even take a side by side or vehicle up there. It gets right nasty. This rotten snow is not
Yeah, it's
something.
terrible.
It's no fun. It's all compact and wet, and it's just a different type of snow that time of
So
year.
so you're hitting lower elevations kind of, or is it right at the bottom end of the snow line then? Like in the very early season? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, way below the snow, like only 600 meters elevation,
Elevation.
roughly
Oh
around
wow.
all around about an average. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, old logged areas along these slopes. Just when you get in the transition zone where these ponderosa pines in this interior dry belt meet up with the zone with the firs, you get into
Okay.
those firs or mixed pine, and some of that's logged or selectively logged many years ago. So you got these old roads. You can't drive in on any of them. There's too much blowdowns and crap on them. Some of them are washed out. There's some people take their quads up and down them. So it's like, it might be a good idea just to avoid them on the weekends or long weekends. But some of them you can't even get a quad through. But I walk down them. I don't own an ATV of any sorts.
Okay.
I'll park and I'll just walk. I'll get the wind in my favor. There's these old landings where they used to skid the logs down to and buck the logs. They're pretty much lush green meadows. Wherever the ground's been disturbed, you have the quack grass coming up, lots of dandelions mixed in with it later on, and you get like crabgrass going around the roadways, clover, and the bears just love that. And you won't see them really feeding on. There's none of the types of grasses like that they really feed on in the timber. The pine grass ain't nothing. I don't think anything eats that. I don't even think the cows will eat it. But you got all this stuff, but in the timber you'll have lots of deadfall, lots of big old logs, and you'll see where they've ripped them apart. Some of
Hmm.
them they've been ripped apart like a year or two before. Some of them are like ripped apart right now. The wood is like yellow. Like you can tell how old it's been, or if the log's turned over, if there's to get the ants, the rocks, you'll see the where it's been. Nothing's growing up in it yet. It's still that fresh indentation right there of the dirt and everything is still there where they've been. But every year there's new rocks kicked over. Where I was looking for sheds, it was the same thing. Sometimes there'd be a whole entire slope there wasn't a rock that wasn't turned over.
So these are you said south facing slopes is what you're looking for, and I'm assuming and these landings are facing south too, so they're going to green up a little earlier, right? Is that the strategy there?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
You don't have to go up into the snow or just below the snow line. You don't have to go very far from the valley at all. In fact, some coming down into the valley, sometimes looking down on it from some of these FSRs that get you up to these points. You can
Okay.
sometimes spot bears in the farmers' hayfields way near the back edges of the timber. And just on the other side of the river and that. So they're not very high up at all at this time of year. And they're not even all out yet either. There's bears still hibernating and way up where there's lots of snow.
Yeah, I would think there's still some spots where they're still sleeping. I know, like I'm up at my place up in the Caribou 70-mile Green Lake area. Our snow's gone, but the green up is it's just starting now. Like you're starting to see little buds of dandelions and stuff, and not a ton of tracks yet. I haven't seen a heck of a lot. So back, when you're going into these spots, are you morning hunting, midday, afternoon, evening, all day? What's your play there?
The best time to go is after dinner, right now.
Last few hours. Yeah.
Right now, but early in the spring, if you get days that are in the teens, you're good to go. If you don't get days that are above about 14 degrees Celsius, it's going to be a really slow day for seeing bears. In the early season, it seems to be more between the midday until it starts cooling off and gets below 10, and then they seem to lose their activeness. And then when you get those first days where the temperatures have reached the low 20s, and then you're still seeing in the teens at dinner time, well, that's the perfect time to be out. Those warmer days, it seems to get their metabolism going. I don't know, there's some magic there, and they're just all of a sudden, bam, you walk into the spot and for sure there's a bear. And usually in the early season, it's usually a big bear. Like the first bear I'll run into every year is either a big boar or it's going to be a sow with cubs.
Right.
And I don't know the reason why that is. I'm not a biologist, but you go in a day where it gets like 22 degrees, say, for example, you want to get out like that afternoon. Guarantee you there's going to be bears out. As long as the weather's not too disturbed, it's going to be, a nice, like fairly calm day. And then you get too many of those days when it starts being in the 20s consistently, then it kind of shifts towards the evening.
Okay.
Be the best time. Up till the temperatures drop down into the single digits again in the evening, late in the evening, or if you get the odd cold day, all of a sudden you won't see anything. But then it seems like the way it is around here. But then when June comes along and it can get really hot here, semi-arid, interior dry belt, you kind of stop seeing anything. They go nocturnal. It's like they're just gone. But the rut is on, so at any given time, just all of a sudden, bam, you could just not see anything all day, and then just all of a sudden, right in the middle of the afternoon, boom, a giant boar right in front of you. Just step out, or you can go in on the cloudy days, the cool days. It seems like in June they're going to be out all day. Wow. It's a weird, totally different scenario than what we face in April, when cooler they're inactive and warmer they're out. And in June, seems like warmer they're not so active, or they're nocturnal, and then when it's cooler they seem to be out.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, this week I've been up at my place here for a few days, and we've had a real mixed bag. This time of year in the Caribou, the South Caribou, you get a lot of weird weather. Like the last couple days, we've had pretty high winds on and off, like gusting, swirling winds. Temperature down at night around like 5 degrees. Highs in the mid-teens, 15, 16, and then rain, hail, showers, even thunder and lightning. And up until today, I haven't really been bear hunting much. Went out a couple days ago with my daughter, did a few hours cruising around, but today I went out and The weather this morning was super nice. It looked like it was going to get pretty warm, real sunny, no wind, and just driving down the road, 10 minutes in, I saw my first bear. And so I guess my question is, in your experience, this time of year, like I guess it's early season would be that first part of April. Now we're in the middle of May and we're sort of I guess it's pre-rut or just about in rut, right? Am I right on that?
Yeah.
It's got to be getting close. Yeah. So we're in
They're
that sort
starting.
of shoulder season, right? So
Yeah.
do you find mixed weather impacts their movement this time in this phase? I guess you could say there's 3 phases of season. So say we're in phase number 2. What's your experience with that?
Yep. I've been out. I put bear hunting on the back burner for the last couple of years, taking a back seat, unfortunately. So I'm not getting out as much as I'd like to, but I'm still getting out 1 or 2 evenings a week. And I'm running into 1 or 2 bears every outing. And we've been getting the past 2 weeks, every time I've gone out, it's been the same, this mixed weather. Yesterday and the day before, we had gusty winds, mixed rain, even snowing in one area I was in there the day before yesterday. And then the sun would pop out and then it'd be gone again. There was dark clouds, then they'd go by. And there was nothing until the evening. Still quite a bit of daylight left. I don't know time it was exactly, 7 something. Sometime I think it was between 7 and 8. I was walking up this old spur road. It was a 2-track road covered in grass with water running down one rut. And I parked at the bottom and I walked up and I got to the first green landing at a switchback, and there was bear scat. When I kicked it, it was green on the surface. It was that darker color, so it wasn't that old. It was still like maybe probably a day old. And that whole mountainside below this landing through the giant timber was just riddled with tracks. And it looks like there's been 2 mature bears hanging out in there. And I don't know for how long, but I'm wondering if it could be a boar and a sow. But anyways, this cinnamon color phase got up and took off and beelined it for the timber at about 50 yards away.
Wow.
And I couldn't really get a good look at it, but when it turned its head, when it got inside the trees, it looked like a sow. It had a more pronounced back end, but I didn't get a good look at it for very long, and then it was gone.
Okay.
So I decided to walk up to the end. So there was probably about another 45 minutes. The thermals hadn't switched yet, so there was still going in my face when I was going up. And there was bear sign past there. And I got all the way to the end. And then I started getting back to the truck. It was about 8:45 when I got back. And I headed home because I had to get up at 4:30, 5 o'clock this morning and go to work. And it was a good hour drive home. And I get on a hurry to go home down the main haul road. And I come around the corner and there's a great big black boar standing right in the middle of the road.
Oh, shit.
And he was big. And it was still legal shooting light. And it was so unexpected. I think the rut might be starting. Because he was obviously cruising. He was on the road. And it was about maybe 3 kilometers from where I see my first shooter bear this year, but I only took video of it and I never pulled the trigger. And don't know if it's the same one or not, or a different one, but there's lots of them around. But when he took off, he literally lumbered. And when they do that, when they have that kind of running in slow motion sort of thing, you know it's a big big guy.
He's not a
And
100-yard sprinter in the Olympics, right? He's going to get there, but he'll take a while to wind up.
yeah, it's amazing the ground they can cover though in short amount of time. It just, I don't know, the big ones seem to look like they're in slow motion.
Yeah.
And that's how that one in the camera and when I took video of ran away when he saw the glare from my scope when I decided I was going to take him.
Yeah. So I got a question for you. Now, there's another wrinkle in, I guess, in this sort of seasonal transition that I think plays a pretty big part in it. The last couple of days that I've been out cruising around, where my place is, it's the summer range for the mule deer up here. They all come from the river and farther south, and this time of year there's deer everywhere. And I've seen a lot of deer, a lot of does with yearlings from last year. I think it's a little early for fawns to be dropping, but do you see, I guess there's a couple factors. You've got the rut coming into high gear probably in the next week or two, and then pretty soon we're going to start seeing little babies and fawns and stuff. Do you see a
Yes.
difference in bear activity once the fawns hit the ground?
Yes, I do. I don't see as many bears in
Grazing mode?
grazing area mode anymore.
Yeah.
When they're in rut mode, they seem to not be in feeding mode as much. They're still feeding, but it's like they're on the go, snacking here and there and on the go and constantly moving. And when you do see them, they're either constantly moving or they're holed up with a sow.
Right.
And usually a boar, he's all panting. If it's a hot day, he's panting, and he looks like he's relaxed. He's got that swagger kind of movement about him. And the sows tend to be kind of excited and restless, kind of a different animal altogether. But sometimes you'll see the sow laying down and the boar just standing there looking goofy with his tongue hanging out. But it's like they change a bit. They're not, you don't see them in these kind of pastury places as often or for as long as periods of time. And you see them if you're spotting stalking and you're glassing like from the other side of the valley. And you could try to make a move, but most of the time, by the time you get there, that bugger's long gone. He's miles, but you never know when you're going to get lucky, because when they're in the rut, like there's always bears moving. It seems like, and the one can just pop out in front of you at any time. Like even like yesterday driving home, like that one, just bam, he was right on the road. Yeah. And you see that kind of behavior, starting to see that. With the wind gusts and everything and the weather, kind of this weather wrinkle in the last few days, compared to last week, I'm seeing more sign. They are moving lots, and I've seen actual bear trails tunneling through the alders and stuff, and they've trampled the ground, and that I wasn't seeing in the last week or the week before. And I went up as high until I got up into the snow, and I couldn't go any further. And then I walked into this one old spur road I like to go. There was a great big bugger in there last year that gave me the slip 3 times. And it was just that same thing, spot him from across the valley, go to make a move and get over there. He's long gone. But it looks like from the sign that he's back this year. But with this transitioning into the rut, not seeing him yet. Is he still there or not? But there's tracks, like subtle paw prints. You can't even see them. You got to pay attention to detail, and you see like a subtle smudge of a paw print or like a pad print, not even a paw print. You just see like little pad prints leave a distinctive mark on the sand or the soil or whatever the type of soil it may be. There's just something about it. It doesn't. It's not really. You can't really say like doesn't look like a track, but a pad print from a bear's pad, like the main pad of the foot, leaves a distinctive mark.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have little character, there's character to the skin on the pad. When you look in the indentation, whatever kind of soil it is, and you could tell it's a pad. And there's sometimes places where you can see in a certain light, and you can squat down or look, and you'll see like the indentations laid out in front of you, even on the driest of dirt. So that's an indication that they are moving around, and they're, as from the activity last night and the night before when I came across a really pale blonde one, they were moving after the wind had calmed down more towards the evening.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, the one I saw this morning, he was on the edge of a road, and I come around it was a main Forest Service road, and I was heading out to my spot where I go shooting, and I come around the corner and I saw him on the road, and he just jogged off to the side of the road, facing me right on the shoulder. I stopped the truck. I was about 200 yards away. I had my gun in the case. I wasn't really planning on bear hunting the first thing in the morning. I guess first thing, it was probably 9 o'clock. And he just looked at me, and then he stood up on his hind legs. And he wasn't a big bear. I'd say he's in that 5.5 foot range, but it was a boar, and he had a nice little white chevron on. And I thought, well, you know what? I haven't shot a bear in 30 years, and I get buy 2 tags, so I might as well shoot this guy if I get a shot at him, and why not, right? Be kind of timing would be good for bear camp. So I just put the truck in park, left it running, grabbed my rifle and started walking, got it out of the case and walked down. And he just went through one of those little trails, like you said, like there was some willows and stuff. And when I got up to where he went into the bush, there was a full on little highway going into the bush, and it was on the edge of an old burn. Probably, well, the burn was from 2017. It was part of the Elephant Hill fire, and so there's a lot of underbrush and stuff, 5-6 feet tall. And so I followed his tracks in, and I could see, like you said, those indentations and the little rotten wood from dead trees and stuff kicked up. And there he was at about 70 yards, and he turned and he stood straight up, just like he did before, and he was sort of looking over the tops of the trees at me. And it was I could have probably shot him right like that, but I was like, we had this big discussion on shot placement last night, and I was like, I'm not very experienced in bear hunting. I don't know if I should have taken that shot or not. All I saw was basically from the chevron up, and then I had time to pull up and shoot him, but he dropped down and took off after probably 10 seconds. I guess one of my questions would be, is that a shot you would take under 100 yards? Is that going to be a vital shot? I guess it could be, depending where I hit him, right?
Oh yeah. That's where well, that boar that cried, that's where I hit him. He was done, but
okay,
that was the only shot I ever made it like that, because he was kind of laying prone, and all I could see was like from that area where but he didn't have a chevron, but that same area up and it, up to his head, and drilled him through there. It was lethal, but he, like I said, he did cry, and that part I didn't like. But
well, yeah,
definitely lethal shot.
Yeah, I mean, that sound, the death moan or the crying, it's horrifying for sure. And in this case, I was thinking, I'm shooting my 300 PRC, and I'm sure I would have smoked him at that range, but I was just curious with experienced bear hunters if people take that shot. So I'll pull the audience here a little bit. We got 60 people watching. So if you've ever experienced that kind of a shot, just make a comment and let us know. I'm real curious. So let's go back to the timing now. So it feels like we're in this transition from the grazing side of things. Like you said, the rut's about to start. Things are starting to get active. Would your tactic for finding bears change now a bit? Like you said, you're not seeing them grazing as much. So your example earlier, you said you're walking in on these spur roads and coming into those grassy landings and south facing stuff. What's your play now? Are you just going to hit roads more and look for roadside feed? Is that the plan?
Cover lots of ground, lots
Yeah.
of glassing, go into the logged areas and glass a lot. Most people drive up and down the roads until they shoot a bear. That's
Yeah.
what most
Oh,
people
yeah,
do.
for sure.
But if you want a little more challenging thing, you can even you can do what I did and hike up in the Alpine one year to find bears. It was the snow had left and it had started to green up in June. The only thing is, I went a little bit too late after it had greened up it's probably been green for about a week or two up there.
Yeah.
And lots of standing water, lakes and ponds and little creeks and stuff up there. And it was just, the mosquitoes were just too much. Bears were down, the bears had it down low. There was scat in there that was about 2 weeks old. So obviously there was some bears there, not a lot of them, but a few. But they had moved down. Like nothing was up there anymore. It was just frogs and mosquitoes.
Yeah.
And birds. That was it. The bears moved down. And when I got on the way home, when I packed out and got in the truck and was driving home, the bears I was seeing were down in the pine and the sagebrush closer to the valley floor where there's no mosquitoes.
Right.
And I saw 2 or 3 of them driving home that day. It was like, okay, oh well, what is what it is.
Yeah.
But,
So, looking at the forecast, it's supposed to get pretty hot in the next week and a half here. What do you suggest people do to try to find bears from, going into the hotter weather now in conjunction with the rut?
I go up, I hunt higher elevations. I find where I like to go, it'll stay cooler. It's quite high, and it's just below the alpine, and there's lots of good logging blocks and spur roads and places to walk. There's lots of places to glass, lots of cut blocks to glass. There's a couple of valleys to glass across, and drainages and basins and that sort of thing. And just do a lot of glassing. Go from one spot to another and do a lot of glassing. It's high up. It's that subalpine. It's got that alpine fir, white pine, lots of alder bush. There's little waterfalls and creeks coming down off the alpine as the snow's melting, and there'll be those roadways will be starting to green up at that time when it gets into the hot zone. Your temperatures cool off earlier at night than they will down at home or a lower elevation. So you're not, you're not having as much issues with flies. There's the big blow flies, all that kind of stuff. Your meat, as long as you get those nuts out and you get that hide off ASAP, that you should be good to go, as long as it gets that dry surface on the meat and that before you get it home and get it down to your meat processor, you should be good to go.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you don't want to leave it out in that heat. It can turn pretty damn fast if it's hot. Is there a particular, so kind of break it into, say, 3 or 4 phases of the bear season? Is there a time of year that you like more than another? Like, is it funner now than it was a month ago, or what's your position there?
I like it all the way up until about June, and then around here it gets gets so hot. Yeah, like I'll go out, but it almost seems pointless. I've tried early in the morning, like first light, and nothing. I've tried like going in the evenings, and it would stay hot well past dark. Like, and it wouldn't start cooling off. We got the AC blasting at home, and even up high, it starts to get hot, but at the same time, you don't really want to miss it, because I've had like times where I come around a corner and there's a big ruddy boar standing there, or just
Yeah.
walking along the road or whatever, right? And they're a little bit distracted then, it seems like, too. They kind of see them strutting along, but they're not really paying much attention. But they're still flighty somewhat,
Yeah.
but not, a little bit distracted more. Like it takes them like a couple more extra seconds to click in that you're there, as compared to earlier in the spring where they're almost like a whitetail.
Yeah. Yeah. This one this morning, he did not want any part of me. Like, he did that curious George look at me, and then he's like, "God, I'm out of here, man." Um, let's chat a little bit about the tactics on, if you want to call them tactics, or I guess for getting in for your shot on a bear. Um, so this time of year, you've just got to kind of hope that if you're finding them on a road or in an opening, you've got to hope they don't see you or smell you right first, and then pull your stalk to the best of your ability.
Yeah.
But what have you found as far as tips and tactics go? Like, I'll use this bear today as an example. He ran off the road, but he didn't run far. And I left my truck running, so no door slams or nothing. So he didn't know where I was. In the case of a bear, like say you see that big bear, amble off the road, end of May, he buggers off into the trees. Well, that's a good bear. What do you do next? Are you going to pull out a predator call? Are you going to shut the truck down? What do you do in a scenario like that? You just saw a big bear go into the trees.
Well, it depends how thick it is and what's in there. If it's a place, like, I know the country pretty well, the layout of the land, and if it's a place I know that's got, like, that opens up in there, or has maybe a feeding area or something, or maybe the ridge opens up into a little wind-swept area with less trees on it or something like that, well, I might take a little, shut the truck off and sneak out or whatever. I might even just leave it running and pull ahead of 100 or 200 yards and then go back in there.
Yeah.
Some people will just get all excited and throw the truck in park and run out the door and then and bugger off and well, you're just adrenalizing it. If you
sure.
a lot of times they won't go very far. Bears won't go very far. They're one of the easiest animals we have in BC to hunt. If you don't complicate things, don't pressure them too much. You can kind of still hunt them, stay calm, and then do it that way. You'll find you have a better chance of running into them again.
Do
And
you
always remember the wind.
use a predator call at all to try to call them back out?
I've never used predator call specifically for bears. I've always thought about it or brought my calls with me, but I always ended up taking a bear first before even getting to use them.
It didn't need to call. Yeah.
No, but I've had bears come in, do my calls later in the year in like November and December when I'm trying to call in coyotes or cats, and I've had a great big boar walk in on me. I never saw him, but after a doubleheader on coyotes, and I went in and walked around the edge of the old landing, and it was snowing like a bugger out. And these great big bear tracks were just inside the timber, right where I couldn't see him, fresh as mine.
Mm-hmm.
So he had come in. He probably spooked at. He probably buggered off at the shots. Well, one shot, and then I distress called, and another one came in, and about not even a couple minutes later.
Yeah, I've heard that once you see fawns, or if you're in an area where there's moose calves, once they've hit the ground and calving season's kind of on, and now the moms are taking care of the young, calling can be pretty effective then, like the fawn and distress call. I would think that's going to be an interesting way to try to, if there's a bear in the area, obviously. Say you see one, maybe you see him in the afternoon or something on the edge of the road, and you come back that night. He's probably not that far unless he's a cruising bear, right? But I think it would be a fun way to hunt him for sure.
Yeah,
certainly.
that'd probably be a good idea for that one that I saw the other night.
Yeah, the one on the road might not be a bad play. Um, any advice? One of the things we talked about last night, and Blake and I were chatting about this a couple days ago, is there's a lot of reasons why we should be predator hunting, bear hunting in particular, and obviously it's got a lot to do with that. Um, conserving wildlife and helping those fawns and calves. But there's a lot of other things too. Like you said a couple minutes ago, bear hunting is one of the easier, and bears are one of the easier animals to hunt. But if you spend some time in the bush in the spring bear hunting and like dedicate some time to it, and if you were to try to put a stalk on almost every bear that you had a chance to, you're getting a lot of field time in, right? Like as far as practicing your stalking and your self-awareness and all of that. Is that something like when you're going to sneak in on a bear, are you working on your skill sets? Like you're a still hunter and you kill a lot of stuff in the bush in predator hunt. Is that something you think people should try to focus on, is use it as an opportunity to practice?
Absolutely. It's part of who we are. It's all these ways of hunting these animals is good for our involvement.
Yeah,
as hunters, it's part of who we are. It's how we advance. It's how we learn. Is mostly from the animals and interactions. How we go about succeeding,
yeah,
and we learn from what we've done, or we learn from our mistakes.
yeah, exactly. Now, you and I were chatting on Spike Camp the other day. We were talking about a little bit about hounds and hound hunting, and how much fun that can be. And we're starting to get some houndsmen on the platform, and I'm going to do. I want to try and get some guests on to talk about hound hunting. Have you done it with bears? Have you hound hunted?
I've never hound hunted. I've never had the opportunity.
Yeah.
There was a time when I wanted hounds,
Mm-hmm.
but wanting hounds and having hounds is it's a big, it's a life changer.
Oh yeah.
You have to
It's a
have the
lifestyle.
time, you have to have the place. It's a
Yeah.
big responsibility. If you're always gone, or you're working a lot, or you're working away from home or close to home but working a lot, or you got nobody to take care of them, you're not there, or you don't have the space for them, there's no point in having them. It's not
Yeah.
fair to the dogs. It's not fair to you. It's not fair to the dogs. They need a place. They need the time. They need the dedication, and it doesn't fit into my lifestyle. Unfortunately, I would have to change my career around, and among many other things, and change where I live. And the wife wouldn't
it's
be
a
too happy.
lifestyle. It's a lifestyle. It's not just another tool in your toolkit. I mean, you change your entire life. I mean, shit,
Yeah.
even having one dog. I mean, we're a dog family, and my wife and I, we had a dog, best family dog you could ever have, 15 years. And, finally had to put him down. And boy, did we notice a life change once that dog was not around. You know what I mean? Like you realize afterwards, your life evolves around. But can you imagine having 6 or 7 or 10? Oh my God! I mean, credit to those guys that do it, but yeah, it's definitely a lifestyle. Hey, we're gonna just pause for a minute. We're gonna draw a winner for a pack alarm. Yeah, we're going to do that right now. And I'm just going to mention, we're also giving away some bear spray from Defense Aerosols. Blake put a post in the group chat here a few minutes ago. If you live within striking distance for us to deliver the bear spray to you, or meet up with you, or you're prepared to meet me, so Lower Mainland, Okanagan, Kamloops, South Caribou area, type bear, the word bear. There's a bunch of people have already done it in the group chat, and we're going to draw a winner a bit later on. But our winner, Blake just pulled. We're going to send you a PackAlarm. Christopher Luman, you are the winner. So Blake will reach out to you through the chat, and we will get a PackAlarm off to you. All right. So Jordan, let's talk a little bit about judging bears. Like, it doesn't sound to me like you're overly picky, but from the pictures that you've posted and listening to you talk, you like killing big bears if you can. Do you try to kill one good big bear per season kind of thing, or are you one of these guys that kills a meat bear and then another bear, or do you kill two bears? What's your strategy there?
Well, it depends on how my freezer situation is. If my freezer is low, I will go after. Well, I'll wait for the first legal boar that I can find. But it's not. It doesn't stop there. I'll assess the bear's coat. I don't kill subadults. I don't like shooting 2-year-olds even.
Mm-hmm.
You know, something a little bit better. You know, and then yeah, my second tag, I'll be a little more picky. But when my freezer, I got deer meat from last year. I still got bear sausage from the boar last year. My oldest step boy, he moved out, so we're not going through as much as what we did in the past. Mm-hmm. But I try to go for, in years like this, one good bear. Mm-hmm. And I'm not looking for a record book bear every time I go out. I don't expect to find it. But I just, nice mature boar, just a nice mature boar, nice mature specimen. Most of my bears are on that 19-inch mark for the skull wise. They're not huge, but they're good sized bears.
Yeah. No, those are big. We talked, I don't know, did you tune in last night on our show with Wasey and Taylor last night? Were you on?
I didn't get back till 10:30.
Yeah, you'll have to listen to that one. Wasey and Taylor have both seen a lot of big bears, a lot of Alberta ones, and they were talking about that. There's a lot, it's hard to find a big bear over 19. You can see them up to that 19-inch range, and I'm kind of fascinated by this, how somebody can field judge a bear within an inch. I think it's pretty talented. You've seen a lot of bears, but a 19-inch bear for interior BC sounds like really good bear. That's a decent sized bear. What have you taken any over 19, closer to that 20-inch range? Maybe you said it.
No.
I don't know. No.
Biggest was 19 and a quarter. Some of them are 18 and 7/8 or 18 and 3/4, whatever. I've gotten some younger ones, some smaller ones, but most of my bears are all around that 18 and 3/4 and 19 and a quarter range.
And what do you see in a bear in that caliber? What do you see for body size? Do you keep rugs and tan hides and stuff? Are you doing that too?
I have, but not all of them. I still got one from last year in the freezer. I meant to get tan, but it's not really the greatest of coat because he was starting to get rubbed, and it was starting to get sort of matted like they do later in the season. But surprisingly, I've had some of those kind of hair types hides tan, and they turned out beautifully. Mm-hmm. But one thing I look for is good ear space. I like to go by the foot between the ears, 13 inches between the ears.
Yeah, I mean, one of the guys said last night, he said, if he was talking about what he tells his hunters when they're shooting out of a stand is if the boar is standing and looking at you and you can lay a 2x6 between his ears completely flush to the skull, it's going to be a good bear. Anything over that mark, like a full-on 2x6 board, is going to be a good one. But you did say that, the boar's skulls can kind of change too, right? Like they're not all the same, but yeah, it's a good sign.
If they're looking at you, their ears might go up a bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, for sure. So if you shot a 19-inch bear in interior of BC in the spring, what kind of weight are we looking at? I guess it depends on the bear, but roughly, what's a range of a good sized bear as far as on the paw weight? What would you say the weight would be?
That's hard to say. I can say what the carcass would be that you take
Sure.
that you
Okay.
hang without the hide, and the paws are roughly around 180 pounds
Okay.
around here. And I shot one that was probably even heavier than that without fat, but it
Yeah.
was rut. He was, that one was super heavy. He was a tank. But I find they're just like people, there's shorter ones, there's
Yeah. It's all different.
taller ones, but they'll all have, like, say, like you could take a few bears with all like around that 19-inch ballpark size skull measurements, but all have a different body size. It seems like they're just like people. Like there'd be like a 5.5-foot dude and a 6'4" dude and
Yeah. It all varies. Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
So interesting. So you were chatting
6
with
foot,
the Sorry, go ahead.
6.5-foot bears that are 19 and 5.5-foot bears that are 19.
Yeah, makes
All
sense.
in this area.
Mm-hmm. So chatting with the guys last night. One is an outfitter, and he has like 40 or 50 tags a year that he sells. So he's dealing with bears for 2 months straight, skinning and gutting them every single day, and he just doesn't have the stomach for eating them and taking the meat home, because he said his hands smell like bears until like September after he's done with them. And these guys, it's a little different, I guess, but I know a lot of guys, a lot of people, a lot of families love bear meat. The BC people seem to like really go after bears for food, and I know you do. What are your thoughts around the harvest, post harvest, and what do you do with your bear? Like, just walk me through the process. What do you get done with it? What are some of your favorite meals? That kind of thing.
Well, I'm very careful about skinning them. Their hair is, I find their hair and their meat is really sticky, and you got to constantly work to keep that hair from touching the meat on a bear. It's harder to see, especially if it's a color phased bear and it has that lighter hair color. It's harder to see. Like, I've worked on many bears with a headlamp on at night, hours and hours, just trying to keep it clean and getting that hide off, trying to get it, especially if you're on the ground, or on a hillside somewhere, and you're is constantly trying to lay it out on the hide. You got the hair side down. You got I had one quarter last year slip out of my hands and drop right on the game trail, the dirt, the bear's own trail, and so that didn't go over well with me. I'm really picky about that kind of stuff. But
Sure.
I mean, it's better than a lot of dirt. A little bit of dirt. I'd rather have a little bit of dirt or moss or stuff from the forest floor than a lot of the crap they put in the food you buy in the store.
Yeah, no shit. So that was one of my questions, is do you have a preferred method? I think everybody's preferred method of dealing with a bear would be shoot them on a road, get them in a truck, hang them, and skin them off a pole, right? Like, that's got to be the best way. But when you're in the, say you're in that hike-in area or one of those spots on a landing or something, a log block, are you doing the gutless method and taking quarters and back straps and packing them out? Like, it sounds like you are.
I've done that way a few times. I've also found ways and brought a saw and got the truck into them. I've drugged them out. I went so far as to drag them out whole. I have a big choker sling, a nylon choker sling that I'll loop around the bears right behind the front shoulders, like right where you're going to shoot them, like around the armpits, around the chest and the back. And I'll pull that. I'll drag the bear, and I keep the tension on it so that the front end of the bear is lifted off the ground. If I'm really conscious about the hair, I'll avoid dragging it over logs with sharp broken branches sticking out and stuff like that, and I'll keep that front end up off the ground and drag the hind quarters. I've gotten to that extreme where I've gotten them out like that, loaded into the truck, and then proceeded to gut them in the back of the truck so everything falls out onto the ground. I've done that way. I've done the gutless method and made trips or whatever it took to get them back. And it can be time consuming if you're picky like me and you're trying to keep that thing clean. And if you got it gutted in that, and then you're trying to drag it, well, then it's you're gonna get a lot of stuff in the cavity if you can't keep it on its back. And and they don't know, they flop around, they twist on you, and that when you're if you're trying to drag any animal through anything. But the gutless method works good too, as long as you don't do what I did last year and pick up a quarter to put it in the game bag and drop it in the dirt on the trail.
Yeah, I mean they're slippery, man. Like the fat stuff. It seems like the few that I've been involved with, it's like as soon as you start touching fat and the insides and stuff, it's like poof, they're greasy and slippery. But I could see that happening. So, are you a home butcher yourself? Like, do you guys process your own meat at home, or do you take it to a meat cutter?
I strictly take it to a meat cutter. I have processed it at home myself. The first couple bears that I took since I started bear hunting, the first couple bears that I took, I did them myself. I heard a lot of bad things about bear meat, and I was scared of trichinosis. That's one reason why it took me so long to, other than my dad not really hunting them or letting me shoot one in the fall when we went out, and was the meat. Was like stories I've heard about the meat and trichinosis. I just did not know how to exactly, I was scared of getting trichinosis, getting sick from it or something. And I heard from a lot of people that bear meat tasted like crap, and I started hearing from, like, next thing you know, I started hearing from about half the other people that were saying bear meat was good. So I thought, well, I'll be brave and I'd try it. So then I took up bear hunting. I wasn't working at the time. I was unemployed, so I had all the time in the world to process it, and I was very picky about it. So I was cutting every bit of tendon out, or any little tough piece or whatever like that I found in the meat, and just had it so clean that it turned out really well. But it just was so time consuming. I mean, we're up all night till daylight processing my first bear, I think. And then the second one, that big, but the same thing. It was like probably 16 hours later before he's in the freezer. I didn't even let him hang because it was quite warm out. It was first week of June, and it was like in the mid-20s. But everything, they turned out quite well. It's just now I don't have the time for it. I work shift work, I work rotations, and it's better for me to just take it in. And then now that I've gained the trust in the bear meat, I trust my local processor I've been going to for several years now, and he does a good job.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because I mean, everything you said about the concerns with trichinosis and you know, there's a mindset that people get with bear meat, right? Like my wife for sure, you know, you just mentioned bear meat and you know, she does like, no thanks. I don't want to try it. I'm starting to work on her a little bit, but um, you know, I think there is a misconception that it's going to have trichinosis before you even start, right? Like a lot of people think that
Yeah.
it's just dangerous to eat it. I have heard a few people say that um, one way to get around that head blockage is to just get it all ground up into burger and then either use the burger for, you know, standard cooking and then you're for sure cooking it through or using it for sausage. Do you take prime cuts and stuff? Like when you drop it off at the butcher, what's your order look like with him?
Well, first few years was everything, prime cuts and the rest burger. It would be stew, bear chops, bear roasts, and then the rest burger. And now it's like probably the last 8 years or so, burger, all of it. Sometimes I'll get the entire bear made into burger. Sometimes I'll get the entire bear made into dinner or spicy Italian sausages. It depends on how low supply I'm on what.
Right.
We
What about
mostly
like
exclusively all game.
yeah, I was just going to say you kill a lot of stuff every year. Do you get everything processed just from a time perspective at the butcher? You do everything there?
I do now, yeah.
Yeah.
I've done deer in the past and bears in the past. I've never butchered my own elk or moose, but yeah, there's always, because of the time crunch. I get it done at the butcher. Plus the rest of the family wouldn't be very helpful if I needed them to help me process it either. Do a lot of that stuff on my own.
Yeah, for sure.
The wife doesn't hunt or any of that, so but she'll eat it. Yeah.
You know, a lot of people get I know the most popular thing is sausage, right? They'll get butchers to make up sausage for them, and it's like jalapeno smokies or pepperoni or, like you said, spicy Italian and that. Do you, when you drop it off at the butcher, are you asking him to, when he's making sausage in particular, do you get him to cut it with pork at all?
He'll usually add a bit in anyways, and I don't know what his percentage is. I'd like to think that it's 10%, maybe.
I've heard 10 is is kind of the number, 10 to 15. Like I know, I do all my own butchering and sausage making, and I have for over 20 years. And depending on what I'm making, I usually buy like a really good quality pork, ground pork, just because it's simple. A lot of people will buy, you know, they'll buy different cuts of pork and stuff and then cut it. But I just usually am like you, I don't have time, so it's easy to weigh out. My wife will go buy ground pork, but I'll vary my pork percentage depending on the meat. But like deer meat, even moose a little bit, I'll go like 20%, sometimes 25, depending on what I'm making. But I have heard 10% is a good number for bear, because I mean it is. Let's face it, it is kind of fatty already. Do you keep the people are jumping in asking some questions? I should pay attention here. Some of them are someone's asking here. Clay's asking if you keep the fat. I know a lot of people do that. Do you render it down and cook with it?
Always. I don't keep all of it. I always got people that want it and they give it away. I still have bear fat from a few years ago, so it takes a long time to use. We got jars and jars of it sealed up after we rented it down and put it into jars, and as it cooled, they just sealed. And in the
Right.
fridge, and it's white grease. It looks like almost like lard or something. It's turned white in these jars in the fridge. Pretty cool. I've used it on treating old leather boots and all kinds of stuff too. We gave it to this yeah. These people that live down the road from us in our neighborhood, they make medicines with it. It's part of their culture, or they know how to make traditional medicines that use bear grease. And so we got some of that back, and yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty amazing stuff. Stuff for sore muscles and joints, and stuff for burns or cuts, or all that stuff. Chapped lips, all kinds of different ailments. They use natural remedies mixed in it from different plants and stuff that they've collected from like locally out in the wilds here. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome when you think about it. I'm not laughing at anything you're saying, Jordan. I'm just looking at the chat, and there's a couple good comments. Clay Weber says he uses it in his hair. If you've seen Clay, man, he looks 20 years younger than he really is. So now we know your secret, buddy. That's what you're using. But yeah,
they do use that for hair.
Yeah, well, there you go. He's not kidding. I wouldn't put it past him, to be honest. If it works, Clay's going to use it. But Dan was saying too, he does also buco, pulled bear, burger for tacos. I mean, realistically, you can use that meat anywhere you're using any other meat, right? So,
yeah.
God, I'm getting hungry. What's your favorite?
I got hams done.
Oh, I was going to ask about hams. So, does your butcher do those for you, or do you do them at home?
He doesn't do them. I had to take the whole hindquarters to place in Kamloops to a guy known as Gary's Meats.
Okay.
And I got these 4 big hams back, and he did a wicked job. It was like Montreal smoked meat, kind of like bear. You think of bear hams, most people think, oh, it's like a pork ham. It's not really. I found it was like a more like a beef pastrami or something. It was a little, but drier, but it was really good, really, really good.
Yeah, that's always intrigued me. I've never had a bear ham. I shouldn't say that. I tried it at a game dinner like 25 years ago, but it's one of those things where you go to a wild game dinner and you try 50 different things, right? So it's like some of them stuck out and some didn't, but yeah, I think we're going to start a thread on get some bear recipes and some ham recipes going. But what's your absolute all-time favorite thing to do with bear meat?
Well, the local game processor got really good sausage recipes for dinner. Sausages and spicy Italian sausages are the only kinds he makes, like in a bratwurst style. Like, so they're the kind you have to cook. Yeah, so that's why I get my bear meat in those sausages. I don't get cold cuts done with bear meat. I was advised not to. I know some people like to get theirs done into pepperoni, but I won't. But I find those Italian sausages are always a hit, no matter where I go. Like, everybody seems to like them. They go, when they're made, they only make like 2 packages, and they're gone. Like, yeah, by the next morning they're gone. I'll reheat 1 or 2 with my breakfast there. And another thing I really like is chili.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my wife will make bannock, and she'll put chili on top of it, and all the fixings and salsa and all that stuff on top, and away you go. And that's pretty darn good too.
God damn, I'm getting hungry, man. I had salmon for dinner. I really should have had some red meat. I'll tell you something I tried last year for the very first time, making it myself, was venison bacon. and you use ground meat. I think I did a post on the platform on it, and season it up, and it's basically ground. You put it in like a cake pan, you cure it, and then it sort of molds in a cake pan, and then you cook it on a barbecue till it's 165 degrees. So you're cooking it yourself, but it's got cure and seasoning and stuff in it. And then you take that, it just looks like a cake, and you take it out, and then you shave it thin, and just freeze it. And then you take those slices and just throw them in a frying pan for a couple minutes, and just sort of cook them a little bit more. And I'm telling you, man, it's sort of a cross between back bacon and it's almost like cooking a ground jerky. It's hard to explain, but yeah, if I shoot a bear this year, I'm going to experiment with that. Try some bear bacon and see how that turns out. But I think it would be pretty cool. I think it would be tasty. So
That sounds good.
yeah, it is. So couple questions then. Obviously, with the bear hunting, it wouldn't be a fun show if we didn't talk about bear encounters. And I can imagine you've got a few stories. Is there any encounters with bears if you're still hunting or tracking them or any of that? What or like you said, predator hunting? Maybe you got a story or two you can share with the crowd.
Well, that grizzly hunt was
yeah, let's unpack that one for us. I forgot all about that. That looks like an awesome bear. So sorry to interrupt. Tell us about that.
Well, he was a new area, never hunted it before. And I remember moving to Alberta and driving through the Rogers Pass and looking at those slides along the highway and all those chutes. And, I was really bummed out. I was like, I'm not going to be able to hunt grizzly bears now. I never even hunted them before yet. And but it was something that I wanted to do. And then here I am moving to Alberta when I was like 20 or 21 years old or whatever, moving to Coaldale out east of Lethbridge, working on a farm. And then I'm going to live in Edmonton for however many years. Finally, I'm moving back to BC in 2010, and nothing never really clicked in or anything. But one year, 2017, for some reason I decided, you know what, I'm going to hunt grizzly bears. I want to put in for that draw, and I want to hunt that area. I thought about that Revelstoke area. I saw a beautiful life-size mount at a taxidermist where I got my bear rug done with the color phase that came out of the Monashees, and it had a gorgeous classic silver tip color to it. It was a nice dark bear too, but he had the silvery tips on his shoulders and that shoulder girdle, and it just looked wicked, and it was a beautiful bear, and I wanted one of those, and I wanted to try to hunt. And it was kind of nervous about it, but I was thinking, well, if you don't start getting into it now, you're never going to do it. And I was glad I did, because they decided the debate went on, they were going to close it or not, and then they ended up shutting it down on us. But long story short, I got drawn, and I got to I put in for an area zone north of Revelstoke. I had asked some friends of mine who had hunted grizzlies before, and they told me, oh, that area you got to go in on snowshoes and that's that. Well, I was like, okay, why not? That sounds pretty cool. Like, add to the adventure, right? So, the mill shut down the winter right before Christmas, the year before. So, but I had a job lined up at the mine, but it wasn't supposed to start till May 2nd that year. And then I had this other job working for a local contractor in the meantime. So I was able to get new boots and stuff, because my boots weren't keeping my feet dry and stuff. And it was going to be, and I needed something snowshoe compatible. And I needed snowshoes, and my pack wasn't really that great. I had really crappy gear. My rain gear was just my old Helly Hansons that I wore on the oil rigs. I mean, they worked good for me for years. I mean, killed elk and moose wearing those things and all kinds of stuff. So why not? Okay, all the story short, we go out, we get a good lay of the land, beautiful country. You're right in the mountains there. It's real mountains. You're in the North Selkirks, in that Big Bend area.
Mm-hmm.
As you go towards the Mica Dam Creek. And it was springtime, so things were starting to green up down lower along the lake and along the power lines and the highway and stuff, and a little bit at the beginning of some of the FSRs. But you look back up into these drainages and these basins are snow covered, but it looked like classic grizzly country with these avalanche chutes, and the alders weren't even sprouting yet. So anything that's coming awake, you're going to be able to see them in these slides, in these chutes and stuff. There, nothing. The alders aren't leaving out yet. So it was end of April. So that night we decide, okay, this is where I want to hunt. This valley looks awesome. I want to go up this valley. I don't care how far. We got to go back in there. I want to go back in there until we at least see a grizzly. And so we set up camp at about 3 kilometers in because we couldn't go any further. And then the next morning we had our breakfast. I slept under a sill tarp. My buddy slept in his tent. And we headed out after breakfast. We got our shoes, headed down the mountain out onto the Forest Service Road. And it started snowshoeing up this drainage, and we get maybe another couple kilometers further. There's this big old grizzly track in there. It was all melted out, and there was some other dude snowshoe tracks all melted out as well from this around the same time. And so somebody else had gone in there and hunted that valley before us, but obviously they had come out because their tracks had gone out too. So we get up in there, and we're glassing all the cut blocks. Very deceiving because you're in like BC's interior rainforest. So you get black bears we were seeing that were looked small was because the stumps some of those trees are so darn huge.
They're big, yeah.
Yeah. So that's one thing I've always used to around here, and helping me judge the size of bears is like being used to the size of the trees and different things on the landscape, different stumps or that kind of stuff. There it's a little bit different. So that's a cool thing about hunting in other places is there's all, that's an example of one thing you might find it just makes us better. And we get up right away. We get about, I don't know, so many clicks in, and we're glassing up chutes and looking across the valley. We saw mountain goats and moose tracks everywhere. It was just peppered with moose sign. And every once in a while, this same grizzly track would come out, would go up the mountain, disappear, or up a drainage or whatever, disappear, and they would come back out onto this logging road we were snowshoeing on. And every time it come out, it was crisper, clearer, and fresher. And then we get about maybe 12 kilometers in there, so when there's this little black bear, this young black bear was skimmying across this avalanche where all the snow had come down, and he was just giving her, like, he was headed the way we came basically, but up above us. And
Okay.
he kept looking back behind. He was obviously getting away from something. We spotted some really nice black bears too, a couple tanks, but was after grizzly was the thing. I wasn't gonna pull the trigger until saw a legal grizzly. So it was definitely a lone grizzly. This track all of a sudden comes out onto the road, and it's as fresh as our tracks. Like we got our snowshoes off because some areas the snow had melted or the sun had hit it more than others. So we're snowshoes on, snowshoes off, and the weather was up and down. It would go from rain to sun to snow to hail to hot to cold to wet. Just there'd be frogs croaking down in the river, in the creek bottom, and then they'd stop, and then it'd be cold, and then it'd warm up again. Mosquitoes would come out. You could hear robins at the same time. You're snowshoeing, on a couple feet of snow, and then all of a sudden you come around a corner. Oh, there's no snow. We take the snowshoes off again, and so it was all springtime was evolving right in front of us, and these tracks step in the snow, and it's the same consistency as the grizzly tracks. So we were on them, and the wind was in our face, which was good. And I told my buddy, he's like, we can't make a peep. He can be around the next corner and thing. And we just walking. I had to whisper to him, and it was like, you talk to me, you got to whisper or come right up to me and whisper. We're not. He's here. He's could be right around this bend. We get up a little bit further, and the tracks keep going down the road. But I heard like a whoosh up to my right in the base of this chute, and I saw these alder branches come up out of the snow, and there he was. He was standing there looking at us, looking down at us, and I didn't hesitate. It was him, and I downed him. It was only 39 yards, and he went, "Ugh." And that was all I could see. Was he was laying on his back, but all I could see was his snout sticking up off the ground with these teeth gritched. And
Jesus.
My buddy's like freaking out. Put another one in him. Put another one in him. He's dead. He's dead. He wasn't going anywhere. So I put another one. It probably went right over him because I didn't have a clear shot. He fell in like an indentation, and all I could see sticking up was his snout. He was laying on his back, and he was not moving. So I shot over him because that's all I could do, just to satisfy Buddy there, because he was ready to crap his pants, and he starts throwing rocks at it.
Jordan, what were you shooting for a rifle and bullet combo there?
300 short mag, 180 grain. Federal Premium and Nosler Partition.
Nice. Yeah, Partition's a great bullet for that. Okay, sorry. The gun guy and me jumped in again. Sorry, everybody. Go ahead.
I hit him right in that shoulder hump in line with the spine, and he collapsed instantly, and he was done. And when I walked up to him, and he looked small, but when I stretched his arms and tried to roll him over, and he splayed out, and then all of a sudden he was huge. It's just funny, like bears are like that when they kind of curl up sometimes when after you kill them, and they just kind of make themselves look smaller or something. It's like a ground shrinkage or something. But then when you start working on them, moving them around, and legs open up or whatever, this true size comes out. And my buddy walks down the road where he's following his tracks, and they went off to the right in the timber and circled around and went right to where he was above us, looking down at us at 39 yards.
Oh my God. Really?
Yeah.
Holy cow. So this bear, did you get him aged? Like, did you have to do the bio thing?
I took I had him done, but I never got any feedback on his age, how old he was.
Okay. That's a
They
beautiful
believe
bear.
they take a hair sample and a tooth.
Yeah. No, it's a beautiful bear. For those that are wondering, you can find there's some pictures, I think 1 or 2 pics that Jordan posted in the bear and predator section. If you search up Jordan, you'll find it. We'll boost that post anyway, but yeah, what a shame, hey, that we can't hunt those things anymore. Like that was your one and only time, and kudos to you for getting it done, but what a shame when you think about it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, all for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, it's not science, that's for sure.
No.
Science proved them otherwise, and we had to make decisions, I guess, that were not science based. But well, congratulations on that. What did you do with that? Like with the trophy, did you get him mounted, or did you do a rug, or what'd you do?
He's life-sized in the living room.
No shit.
Yeah,
Wow. You'll
he's
have to
huge.
post a picture of that if you don't mind. I don't think we saw that. We just saw the
There
unless you
should be
did and I
some
missed
on
it.
your, there's a taxidermy post thread
Okay.
in one of your, in one of the
That's where it is.
feeds, and he's in the comments section in there.
Okay. Well, we'll find it and we'll boost it up. But yeah, that's awesome. Right on. Well, that's a good story. Appreciate you
Got
sharing it with
another
us.
one, a black bear that I anchored about 10 feet in front of me because
Okay.
I made a spot and stalk, textbook spot and stalk from across the valley, and it ended up walking in on him when he was about 150 yards, and waited for him to get broadside, but I don't know, maybe I got a little bit impatient. I should have waited for him to stop, and I ended up hitting him a little far back because he started spinning in circles. After I rolled him over, he got up and he started spinning in circles, kind of biting at himself. And I thought, well, it was a good hit. He'll down again. He's slowing down, but he turned out of those circles and started coming right towards me. And I put one right in, right, like I went to shoot him for a headshot.
Mm-hmm.
But then he lowered his head. He was bleeding, but he lowered his head and still coming towards me. And I got him. I kept my, I guess I kept my wits, and I didn't put my gun down once. I had him in the scope the entire time with the rifle up and him in the scope, and I kept the crosshairs on him the entire time for all three shots. And the third shot, right between, when he lowered his head, right between the shoulder blades, and dropped him, and he was like 10 feet away.
Jeez.
So that was,
They have a will to live sometimes, right? Bears.
yeah,
Yeah, they sure do.
yeah.
I don't know if you're seeing in the comment section in the chat, but there's one of our members, Mitchell Jones, is talking about an attack that he had from an injured black bear 3 weeks ago, and he's been going back and forth with a couple guys tonight talking about hounds. He's got hounds, and the dogs helped basically save him from this bear, a black bear. So Mitch, if you're listening, and I know you are, we're going to have to get you on for an interview and talk about this. It sounds like a hell of a story. Glad you made it out okay. So, yeah, they're dangerous and they're tough, right? But I think that's also one of the allures we have with hunting bears is there is a bit of an element of danger, certainly with grizzlies, right? I mean, it goes without saying that a grizzly hunt's going to be potentially dangerous, right?
Yeah.
Well, my friend, we're running out of time. It's been an hour and 45. We're going to wind down here, but before we go, I'm going to ask you a couple questions. I like to ask questions to the guests towards the end of the show. Let's see here. So, if you got to pick a hunt anywhere in the world, and it was on someone else's bill, where would it be, and what would the animal be, Jordan?
That's a tough one, man. Holy man.
There's a lot of cool shit out there.
Oh yeah. It would be a tough coin toss decision between an Arctic adventure hunt for, like, say, polar bear, muskox or something, or Arctic wolf, and or a hunt over in Kyrgyzstan for argali and ibex.
Oh man. Yeah. I'm with you. I'd like to do both of those, man, one day. Okay, next question. What is the one piece of gear in your pack that it goes on every hunt no matter what, and it's something you won't leave home without? And of course, not your rifle or your binos, something other than that.
Trying to remember here. Pack.
Or I guess what's something that you use a lot that you just couldn't be without?
Oh, huh.
Next question.
I really use everything that's in my pack.
Well, then you pack efficiently, right? Well, that's good.
Yeah. The only thing is I don't take my stove with me when I'm on day hunts.
Okay. So you're doing without hot coffee then, right?
Oh, my headlamp always stays in my pack. No matter what, day hunt, morning hunt, whatever. Never know when you're going to need it, or you're going to have to skin out a quarter or gutless method or whatever an animal when you're into the nighttime.
Yep.
And the
sure.
Havalon.
The Havalon.
The Havalon does a remarkable job skinning.
Yeah, I mean those blades are, those replaceable blade knives, I think are, I mean, I love a traditional fixed blade, and I'll use it as much as I possibly can. I got knives from a couple of our BC knife makers. We're so blessed here with all the talent, but there's always a like Havalon or something like that in my pack as well. They just come in so handy. So
yeah. I always pack the Havalon and a folding fixed bladed knife.
Yeah,
I never just pack the Havalon by itself.
Yeah, no, fixed blade for sure. All right, well, we're gonna do one more giveaway tonight. Mitchell, I see you there. I'll reach out to you and we'll set something up. I'm gonna be around here. Maybe we'll do a little bonus short interview with you, maybe the next week or something, early next week if we can get on. So I'll reach out to you. We're gonna do one more giveaway. As everybody knows, we partnered up with This Is Coffee, Trail Fair Foods, and Wilderness Athlete. We're putting these little mountain fuel bundles, we're calling them. So Blake's pulled a winner already. And that winner is Jordan Swanston. Jordan, I will reach out. We'll get you hooked up next week. I'm going to try and figure out how I'm going to ship stuff. Heard on the news today that they say that our Canadian Postal Service is insolvent, but we're going on strike anyway. So I don't know, man. Crazy times. So in closing, I just want to remind everybody that the May Rewards Program prizes are a 30-pack of Wilderness Athlete Hydrate and Recover, and an MTN gear backcountry carbon fiber bipod and hybrid rail. The bipod is very, very, very light, 5 ounces, and this rail that they use allows you to use an ARCA or a pick rail based accessory. Blake's reminded me I got to announce the bear spray winner. Bear spray winner, Nathan Mossy. Nathan, you just won some bear spray. Hopefully you never need to use it, but you got it. Anyway, Jordan, thank you very, very much for taking the time. Appreciate it. Great content, great stories. And by the way, thank you very much for all the support on Spike Camp. You're one of our regular contributors, and you do a lot of good stuff for us, and we appreciate the support, man.
It's like being around a campfire with a bunch of like-minded people.
That's what we like to think. It's really become a community, and we're super happy about it. And the cool part about this Bear Camp series, even though we had our technical difficulties, all of our guests are legitimate members, not new members, but people that we've had on the platform for a while. So we appreciate the support, everybody, and look forward to getting more content out there. So hope you guys enjoyed this live stream. Thank you for tuning in, and have a good night. And let's post some more bear pictures and get out there and start saving some fawns and calves because they're going to hit in the ground here shortly. We got to do our part. So thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Take a moment to judge them.
Yeah, judge them first, then shoot them. So,
Yeah.
right on. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you later.